Hey everyone, welcome to the I'm a Rescue podcast. I'm Tom Clark.
I'm Steph Clark.
And we are in West Dallas, Wisconsin, recording our podcast today. And joining us on the podcast, we have a very special guest. Yeah, it's Art Clark. He made his own name tag for this. So Art Clark is my dad. He is a World War II veteran. He is a great guy. He just celebrated his 93rd birthday last week, and we are here at his luscious abode.
Oh, yeah.
And so what we did a couple weeks ago is I asked people on Facebook to come up with questions for my dad, and because he is a little hard of hearing, so this is probably the easiest way to do this. And he's going to answer a few of those questions. We picked out some of our favorites. We got some backups if we decide to go to them. And we're just going to ask questions till he kicks us out, right? Dad,
Thanks for doing the podcast, Artie.
Oh, you're welcome.
Are you excited?
Oh, very excited.
Is this your first podcast?
My first podcast.
We're honored. I'd be mad if he had done another podcast.
He's done. This is like his 5th podcast.
I've been on Mark Maron, Joe Rogan. This is you were my last choice. So we're gonna start with some softballs. This one is from Sharon Houston, who's gonna be on our podcast very soon.
Hey Sharon, what up, girl?
And this is a question: what's your favorite thing about Milwaukee? What do you like most about Milwaukee?
Well, I think it's the feeling of neighborhood. Wherever you go, you meet somebody from the north side or the south side or one of the suburbs, and you feel like you've known them a long time.
Right. People are very connected here. And Stephanie just met a relative last night at our show.
Yeah, I didn't even know
that
she lived in Milwaukee.
She had a relative. So yeah, that's
I love that answer.
Yeah, and that's true. I think Stephanie, being from California, you feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now this is sort of along the same lines. This is from Bill Begas, great caricature artist. Bill Begas, check out his website. If I knew it, I'd say it. But Bill Begas, caricature artist. This is sort of a similar question. What's your favorite thing to do in Milwaukee?
I like to go to sporting events, and they're easy to get to. I used to live in the neighborhood of Miller Park, so I could walk to the ball game, and easy enough to get on the bus and go downtown and see the Bucks play. And
also going to your son's comedy shows.
That's right.
All right.
So if you have connections for sporting events,
Aaron Rodgers.
Take Artie Clark.
Yeah, take Dad. Dad loves to go. We went to Game 4 of the Brewers Dodgers, and they lost. Right? Remember we went to Game 4.
I remember that.
It wasn't. It was good. But my dad, that was one thing. My dad in 1982, he went in for the lottery for World Series and playoffs tickets. Right? You remember that?
Right.
And he let us go to Game 5 of the playoffs when the Brewers won the AL championship, and. It was very generous of you to do that.
Well, I'm glad you got to see it. Once in a lifetime event.
Right, because you saw. Did you go to the World Series when the Braves were in it?
No, I did not.
No, so you sort of knew it was once in a lifetime.
How do you know it's like a special thing?
How do you know it's a special thing?
Because the playoffs only come around once a year. And there's only 2 teams involved, and it's not always the Brewers.
Right. We're a small market team, so we're not like LA or New York. We're not always going to be there. So you think every year we're going to be there, and then, the Packers won the Super Bowl in 2010. Now we're here.
So the Brewers were in the playoffs last year, and it had been a long time since then?
I mean, we had made it to the playoffs, but yeah, it definitely had been about 8 years, and it had been. I think we hadn't been to the championship since '82, so That's a long time. And this is actually a good question because did you like the Brewers moving to the National League?
Yes, I think it kept up the tradition that since when the Braves came from Boston, we were in the National League, And then when they moved to Atlanta, we were without a Major League Baseball team, and when we had a chance to come back in the big leagues, they put us in the American League, and I was not that comfortable with them.
You didn't like the DH?
Oh,
That question was from Jim Coughlin. Jim actually just did a comedy special, just filmed it.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, thank you, Jim, for that question. Do you have something to... You don't
What's
even know.
DH? I'm like, what is all?
DH is a designated hitter. So in the
Okay.
National League, the pitchers get to hit, and in the American League, they have a hitter. That guy, that's all he does. He doesn't play the field or anything.
Oh, gotcha.
So this is another sports question. This is from Norm Jacobovitz. Norm is, if you need Coca-Cola merchandise.
Oh, he retired.
Oh, he's not there.
He retired. He's living the good life, drinking some Coke on the beach.
Drinking Coke on the beach in Valencia.
What up, Norm? You rock.
Yeah, thank you, Norm. And so his question is, who was or is your favorite Packer?
Oh, that's a good question.
I've got to go way back on this. I always liked Tony Cannondale, the gray ghost of Gonzaga.
The gray ghost. What year did he play for the Packers?
Oh, back in the 50s.
Wow. And
What makes him so special?
Well, his unique name, for one thing, and, well, the fact that he played for quite a few years was it. And he stayed in Green Bay after he retired, so he was always part of the Green Bay organization.
Yeah,
That's cool.
That was always cool growing up because one of our neighbors growing up was Lionel Aldridge, and Lionel Aldridge played for the Packers in the Super Bowl years. He was part of Super Bowl 1 or 2, I think maybe both, and you just see this former Packer in the neighborhood. It was just, you know.
It goes back to being a part of the neighborhood, and I feel like with Aaron Rodgers, he is like, you know, he lives in LA, but he also has such a personal connection in Green Bay, and everyone in the community makes people in sports feel really involved.
Yeah,
you know?
I think everything, you know, and I mean that goes to our show last night too. Everyone, all the people that came out from my high school and college, and just neighbors. Yeah, it's always nice. So we're going to get into some of the military questions. Some people had some military questions. So this one is, how old were you when you went into the military?
Oh, I got drafted when I was 18.
18.
Wow.
Right out of high school.
No, I graduated from high school when I was 17,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't go in till I was 18, which was after April, and they didn't draft me until July, I think. July of 44.
July of 44. And what were your thoughts when you got drafted, or was that just part of your life, or?
Well, it was just part of my life. I know I got on the bus and I got off at the recruiting station. They took me from there, and we got on a bus and went downtown and had to go through some kind of fill out some paperwork and go into have some physical tests. And if we passed all that, then we were put on a bus and we went to Fort Sheridan, which was in northern Illinois.
Wow. And then,
Yeah, well, and we only stayed there a week or so, and then we were sent to and we did a lot of testing, and somewhere along the line, then we were put on a train. We went and I was assigned to go someplace in California.
yeah, you were at San Miguel, or what was the training center?
Yeah, we were near Camp Roberts, which was near San Miguel in California.
Right.
And the basic training was a 17-week training cycle. So that got us going in the military system.
You were in an artillery battalion, right?
Oh, right. Well, I trained as an artillery person, yes.
Which involved what? What did you do?
Well, we had about 8 guys to service an artillery piece, and you had to learn everybody's job. And so when you were sent to a line outfit, you could fit right in.
Okay, so you had to know, you had to know all the
Yeah.
positions basically. And so and then you, once you went overseas, you went to, where were you sent after basic training?
Well, I did get to go home for around Christmas time in 1944, and then I had to go back to California to Fort Ord, which was the place where you trained before you got on a troop ship. And that was just a couple of weeks, and then I wound up on a troop ship for about 30 days in going to the South Pacific.
Okay.
And originally I think we were supposed to get off in New Guinea, but the fighting had advanced so much that they didn't need us in New Guinea, so I wound up going to the Philippines, where I could join a line outfit.
So you were on the sort of the front lines, or on the battle?
Well, the artillery is always about 5 or 7 miles in back of the action, and that's
Okay.
where I was.
Yeah. And you were fighting the Japanese then, or?
Well, Japan was still in control of parts of the Philippines, and we were trying to get them and capture them so that the United States could take over the Philippines and turn the Philippines over back to to the Philippine people.
Okay. Wow. So this sort of goes along with that. This is from Demetropoulos. Paul Demetropoulos. He asked, "What's the most profound memory of World War II? The most profound memory of your service in World War II. What do you remember the most?"
Well, one of the things I remember was just kind of a nostalgia thing, in that we were in northern Luzon, and when we got up in the morning, if we wanted to, we could hang out in front of the mess tent and have a cup of coffee until they were ready to serve breakfast. And a fellow from the Filipino Scouts came up and talked to me, and he asked where I was from, and I said Milwaukee, and his eyes sort of lit up, and he said he knew Milwaukee, that many years ago he had worked in Minneapolis and Milwaukee, and he had been a salad chef, and he mentioned that he had worked at the Schrader Hotel. So it was nice to meet somebody, a foreign person, who knew something about your city and your and places in your city, and that was a memorable thing for me.
Yeah, that must be out of nowhere too. It's
Yeah.
not like people are jetting around the country in 1944. This is another good question. This is from John Polesnik, who is my improv teacher at Comedy Sports. He's on C Team, another improv group. What were your thoughts when you heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
Well, the first thing I said was, well, a friend of mine was coming over to my house to figure what we were going to do the afternoon, whether we were going to listen to the football on the radio or go someplace. And when he came, he said, the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor. And I said, along with my father, what's Pearl Harbor? And so that was the beginning. That was my introduction to Pearl Harbor and World War II.
Wow.
I was in high school at that time.
And were you thinking of that as, did that seem real, like the war? I mean, because you don't, like nowadays it's all televised, but back then you're just hearing about stuff on the radio. Did it feel real, or how did it feel?
Well, a certain bit of bewilderment, because I knew that when I found out Pearl Harbor was in Hawaii, I knew that was a long ways from Japan. And I sort of scratched my head trying to figure out how could they get over from Japan to Hawaii and do all their damage. Mm-hmm. And so that was a certain sense of bewilderment.
Wow. So Dad, conspiracy theory, right?
Yeah.
That's really interesting, because you don't, and that's what I like about my dad, is he sees through sort of what, they present to you on the surface. It's like, oh, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, but it's like, he thought beyond, like, well, it's a lot of territory to come over, and these are like little kamikaze planes that are, and it's like, we've got a naval base, we've got, things that could easily destroy that, and the fact that it was left vulnerable. I mean, I never thought of it before until he said it, but it's like,
Right.
I think that's, it's but what are you gonna do? It's like you have no control over it. Let's see.
Do we need a water break?
Do you need some water, Dad?
No.
No. See, he's a tough guy. I guess this is sort of along the same lines. What event in history stands out the most in your mind, and how did it change the world? This is from Christine Capriola, who I've done comedy sports with. She's also a teacher, high school teacher, I believe. So what event in history stands out in your mind, I guess from your own life, from your own lifetime?
Well, one of the things I remember is I was still not in the military, but I was at home, and they were talking about invading Europe, the Allies invading Europe, and they did a lot of bombing and so forth, but there was no invasion. And then finally on June 6th, 1945 or whatever it was, the big armada went from England to France, and they invaded France, and all the paratroopers had jumped the day or so before, and so that was D-Day, and that was very memorable.
And were you getting reports like this is what's happening in Normandy, or?
Well, they didn't give us any. Well, whatever they could reveal to the news people, they would tell us on the radio or publish it in the newspapers. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, later on, I had a high school friend who was probably in the second wave going into France on D-Day, and well, he got killed.
Oh.
And then there was a neighbor of ours who also went into D-Day, and he got wounded, and he was evacuated and went to got rehabilitated and spent the rest of the war in hospitals.
Wow. Yeah, and these are like high school friends who end up, yeah.
Well, the last one I was talking to was our former neighbor on Blue Mound Road there, Joe Brady,
Oh yeah.
Mr. Brady, yeah.
Yeah, he lived a few. He was in D-Day, or
Yeah, he was on D-Day.
Wow. Yeah, Joe Brady lived a few houses down from us, and yeah, it's funny. Like I grew up probably in a neighborhood with, that somebody went through D-Day, and we delivered his newspaper, and every day. It's really a nice guy, but just to live through that is scary.
When D-Day happened, you were in the Philippines, or you were?
No, I was still a civilian.
Oh, you were in. Okay, okay, I'm trying to get the years.
What was the year of D-Day? 1940.
I think it was 44.
44.
Yeah.
June 6, 19.
Okay, you were.
And,
It was the
and
summer.
I didn't get drafted until after D-Day.
That's right, July.
I think D-Day was June of 44, and I didn't get drafted until July 44.
Okay. Yeah, so 1 month after then.
And knowing all of this, were you scared of like where you were gonna wind up serving and what would happen?
No, I think because there were so many options, I just thought I'd lay back and see what happened.
That's where I get that from. Is you can't control what you can't control, so you just gotta sort of hope for the best, right? What's your philosophy on that? Is you just hope for the best, or?
Yeah.
All right, so this is getting not personal, but just sort of stuff about. My dad was married to my mom for 50 years.
They had two lovely boys.
They had two lovely boys. I have one of those lovely boys. So Erin Brandt, you remember Erin Brandt? She actually lived next door to Joe Brady. She asks, what's the secret to a long, loving marriage? What's the secret?
I think it's communication.
See, Dad's used to saying that because I have a joke in my act where I say, "What's the secret?" So whenever I ask him, he says, "But is that what you really believe, or you don't have to?"
No, I think it's it. And if you communicate, you understand each other.
Yeah, I feel like you and Mom had like sort of a yin and a yang relationship, right? She sort of kept you calm.
I think, yeah.
To not sweat the little things. What did Mom bring to the relationship that helped you?
Well, she had a lot of, because of her work, she had a lot of people experience. So I was just another character who had to learn how to adjust.
Yeah, my mom was a social worker, so she was good with dealing with people, and yeah, it was. But yeah, 50 years they were together, and yeah, you guys did such a good job. You guys know that, right? You did a great job raising us.
Yeah, right.
All right, so this is along the same lines, just a little more specific. This is from Jennifer Quilty. I went to college with Jennifer. Was in Bergstrom Hall.
Cool.
Anyways, at St. Norbert. So this is what's the secret to a happy, healthy life? Secret to a happy, healthy life.
Well, you have a lot of togetherness, and you also have an opportunity to do things by yourself or with other people.
Yeah.
So having a well-balanced life.
Yeah.
Balance, right.
Yeah. A balanced life. All right. So it's simple. Balanced life. I've already done it. I'm living my best life. So this is a question I have, and this is sort of helpful. What advice, we have two nephews, Max and Sebastian. Well, I guess they're my brother's sons. What advice would you give Max and Sebastian? What advice would you give them?
Well, Tim, their father Tim just told me that Tim and Lilia were going to be confirmation sponsors for two nephews, or a nephew and a niece, and I said, tell them what they told you when you graduated from Notre Dame. Via con Dios.
Via con
Go
Dios.
with God.
Go with God. So that's your advice for them.
That's
Go.
my advice to Max and Sebastian.
What about me?
Too late for you.
Too late for me. All right, that's fair. Let's see. This is good. This is from Sean Young. Sean was, this is Marty's older brother, one of about 28 kids of the Young family. But they have so many kids. Anyways, what was it like throwing out the first pitch at Miller Park? My dad threw out the first pitch, I believe, about 3 years ago.
I was a little bit nervous and apprehensive, and however, I had been practicing a couple of weeks before, and when I got there, I was not as apprehensive as I thought, and the brewer who was going to catch my pitch explained to me, look, you don't have to go on the pitcher's mound and throw 60 feet. Go where you're comfortable and stand there and throw the ball. So I think I went about 40 feet from home plate and I threw the ball, and the rest is history.
He did it right across the plate. You got it across the plate.
And you featured in a report, right?
Fox 6 did a little report. Ted Perry came over to the thing, and that was part of my parents' 50th anniversary. That was like my pitch, and so I did a big campaign for that. And the big push I got was from Taylor Williamson. Like, the Brewers really didn't acknowledge me, and then Taylor Williamson retweeted it, and suddenly I was getting the Brewers were like, "Can you stop tweeting this?" And then I had to tell my dad, and he was kind of thought it was weird, but yeah, he did a great job. He really, 90 years old,
Yeah.
probably. And we'll post the video. There's a great moment where the crowd, they're like, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome World War II veteran Art Clark," and Dad raises his glove in the air like an old.
It was
Pro.
special.
You were really good at baseball. I remember my dad used to hit fungos to me, where he would throw the ball with one hand and then hit it with one arm to us, and he would crack the ball. Did you play? I forgot if you played baseball, or did you play any sports in high school?
Not really, no.
No.
Just on the playground with choose-up games.
Yeah, Dad could hit the ball like a country mile. Like we were playing like a Cub Scout fun game, like dads and sons, and Dad nailed the ball. We were playing at this park, and if there was a fence, he would have hit it over the fence. Unfortunately, Dad's a very slow runner, so it ended up being a double. But you could really.
He takes his time.
He takes his time, like Babe Ruth. He's like. But I just thought he could have been a major leaguer.
Did you think that, or I guess because you didn't play in high school, right? But did you ever think about doing that?
Just neighborhood games with
Gotcha.
friends.
Yeah.
Cool.
So this is from CJ Costas. He's just a good guy. He's
Improv guy.
no. He's just come out to see my shows. He's been friends with Jessica Siborski. I think I'm saying that right. But anyways, he asked, "What do you think of technology throughout your life? How is technology? Is it blowing you away? What's happening now?" Or?
I'm still trying to catch up, and I'm way behind.
No, you email
Yeah,
you're on.
My dad does email. I've held off on the Facebook. He does have a Facebook account, but we don't really use it.
He's on Instagram.
Well, he's got a Snapchat account. Does a lot of great characters. What was I gonna say? Oh, one thing when you retired. So when my dad worked for the city of Milwaukee. He worked in the accounting office, and when he retired, they switched from a key punch system, which was one of the old school methods of, like, this is where you had like these little cards that you would insert into this machine. And when my dad retired, he was the only one who knew how to do it. So they had to bring you back right? The city of Milwaukee had to bring my dad back to help them make the transition into the 20th century because he was the only one who understood the key punch. Do you remember that?
I sort of remember that, yeah.
You were retired, and they're like, it was
Yeah,
the detective they bring out of retirement. We need you back, Clark. But yeah, my dad has the computer. He has an iMac in the office there, and he always emails me and figured out. What did you figure out? Oh, you figured out how to change the battery in the keyboard.
Yeah. You do like you check your bank accounts online. You're very active online. Probably more than my mom.
I do some of my banking online, yeah.
All the stock stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody else, Joe Newman asked, and his mom was wondering, you're still doing the genealogy stuff too, right?
Yes. I'm a little behind on that because something happened that I couldn't catch up with.
Yeah, so he's figured out. How far back have you traced our family? How far back have you traced our family?
Well, the Clarks, we can get back to 1500 something in England, and some of the other relatives go back to the early 1800s.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I'm still working on some of that.
Anyone famous? Any
No.
kings? No kings? All right. Disappointing.
Well, one guy was he was one of the founders of Newport, Rhode Island, and he was the founding pastor of the First Baptist Church in Newport, Rhode Island.
Wow.
Looks like
And he also was a close associate of Roger Williams, who was one of the firebrands for getting independence for Rhode Island, and my Clark relative went to England to try to negotiate some kind of charter from England to give the people of Rhode Island more freedom.
Wow.
And he was quite successful.
Cool.
Looks like we're gonna head out there for comedy shows.
Yeah, Rhode Island, here we come. Newport, Rhode Island. I'm gonna make a note of that. We're gonna do a show at the Baptist Church. My family owns this place. Excuse us. We get out of here. All right, this is about me, but somebody asked.
Of course it is.
What's the thing that I've done that's made you the most proud? What's the thing I've done that's made you the most proud? I didn't like that's your most shocked reaction. It's like proud. I've never been proud of you. No. What's the thing that's made you most proud or surprised you the most? Anything like that?
Well, the fact that you picked up your marbles and moved to California and never came back.
Yeah, I picked up my marbles. What's the stupidest thing I've ever done? What's the dumbest?
I can't think of anything that stupid. I was a little surprised that you, when we were trying to figure out where are you going to go after high school, you didn't really have any suggestions as to where you wanted to go.
Yeah, I really had no clue. I was like, everything's been figured out for me up to this point, and then I had to decide, and it was between, I really didn't have it, and then my mom's like, you gotta decide, and I remember I ran up to my room crying, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
You're a young boy.
I'm a young boy with a lot of hormones. And, but one thing I'll say is my dad, you used to wake up every morning, or not every morning, but every Sunday morning, my dad and I would deliver newspapers, and he would have to get me up at 4:30.
Gross.
And he would always wake me up. We had a black and white TV in my room, and he would blast it. And he would always turn on Sesame Street because it would annoy me, I think, right? Is that why you picked Sesame Street? Plus, that's probably one of the only things on at 4 in the morning. And they would blast it, and every time I'd fall asleep, and he was so patient, he would come back upstairs like, Tom, we gotta go. And he would deliver papers. What was that like? You did that for a number of years. Did you?
Oh, yes.
Did you like that, or how did you feel about delivering newspapers with us at 4:30?
Well, I don't mind getting up early, but it did get to be a chore, especially in the very cold weather.
Oh my God!
And I was wondering whether the car would start and stuff like that.
Yeah, we had a Ford Fairmont.
Well, you didn't ride your bike and deliver papers?
But Tim did. Tim would ride his bike, and he had this horrible bike called a Mossberg, and he would put the newspapers on the handlebars, and we have like a pretty big hill going down to our place, and one time he didn't have any brakes, and he would just sort of like have to use his feet to stop the bike.
Oh my gosh.
And he broke, like the frame was broke. We had to like solder the little thing that you were sitting on, where the seat was. We had to solder that so it didn't fall.
Well, didn't young boys get kidnapped like 70s and 80s newspaper boys?
Yeah, it was just part of the deal.
All right.
You'd lose a couple along the way. So that was, but yeah, the newspaper delivery. My dad, I don't know where I got it from, but I was working from a young age. I was working my brother and I started working like at 9, 10 years old. We were delivering papers. My brother initially hired me, so it was like, we've always had the work ethic, and that's from this guy.
You still sleep in.
I still sleep in though, but I have to say that about you. You never, when I was growing up, I never heard you complain about work. You always just did what you did. Was that something that you?
Well, I got that from my father, I guess.
Yeah, this is what you did. All right, this is a fun question.
We complain
here.
all the time.
We do. We're spoiled. This is from Vince Moranto. Vince is a very funny comedian. Normally when I'm at Zany's, you'll see Vince and I together, and he has a very funny question. His question is, Hamm's, Schlitz, or PBR? What's your favorite beer? Hamm's, Schlitz, or PBR?
I think PBR is my favorite beer. Primarily because it's easier to get a hold of than either Hams or Schlitz.
Well, Vince will say, Vince is going to hand deliver. Next time he's in Milwaukee, I want Vince to bring a Hams or Schlitz to my dad. I'll give you
Spotting
that.
Cow, too, is really good.
Oh, yeah, Spotted Cow is like the new one. Have you had a Spotted Cow?
I think he has.
I think I've had a Spotted Cow, yes. That's from New Glarus.
Yeah.
New Glarus, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that beer.
And they're selling 24 in a case bottles now at Pick and Save.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
We're headed out there after this podcast.
We're going to tailgate in the parking lot here at the
Pick and Save
Living Center. Okay, this is another good question from Vito Giswaldi. Vito is a YouTube personality, I'll call him. But he's very funny. I wish he would spend more time doing stand-up, but he doesn't, and that's all right. But he asks, what's the best cut of meat and why? What's the best cut of meat and why? Whatever you think. What's your favorite cut of meat?
I like prime rib.
Prime rib, all right. I thought you were going to say liver. I don't know if that's a meat. You love liver.
I like liver, yes.
Yeah, my dad would look forward to liver.
I don't think I've ever had it. Maybe we'll have a liver night one night.
No, please don't. Please don't punish me. I think those are all the questions I had. I'm trying to think if there's any that I think that's good, right? We don't want to.
Yeah, that's
we don't want to overdo it. I think that's our question. What maybe something final from you, something profound we could end on here?
What advice do you have?
What advice?
Well, I think as far as a closing statement, I would like you to know that I'm a resident of Library Square in West Dallas, Wisconsin.
Okay, that's good.
Cool.
And I am so happy that we had my dad on the podcast. This was we had Steph's mom, now my dad, and Yeah, and if you ever have questions just in general for my dad, let me know, and I'll ask him. And this maybe
We'll email him because he can email.
That's right, we can email. We'll teach him to do the face. He can do FaceTime too, so we can also record this on FaceTime.
Cool.
So thank you so much, Dad, for being on our podcast.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad I could participate in your podcast. Tim and Tom and Steffi.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arnie.
Thank you. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank
We
you.
also videoed this, so this is fun. So I'm going to be able to give this to my nephews so they can watch it as well.
Oh, cool.
And
I thought you were posting it on Facebook.
and I'll post it on Facebook, but I don't know. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right.
Anyways, thank you guys so much, and we really appreciate everyone who's watched the podcast. We've had so many great guests. If you want to be on the podcast, if you feel like you have a good rescue story, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. We never know who wants to, sit down and chat.
Yeah, you can
So reach out to us.
You can Facebook message me, or you can go tomclarkcomedy@gmail.com. Remember, check out our website, tomclark.com is mine. Steph's is...
Follow me on Instagram, Funny Girl Events, Steph Clark on Facebook, Steph Clark Comedy for all my shows, funnygirlevents.com for all the comedy shows I produce in SoCal.
And we're very excited. In June, we're going to be in Alaska, Dad. We're going to go to Alaska in June. Anchorage, middle of June, I think June 13th to 16th. So I think this podcast, we're going to probably put it out right after Memorial Day. So
And we'll be in Paso Robles.
Paso Robles in July.
July 13th.
And August, maybe Hawaii.
Hello.
Hello. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.